Welcome to Lexan TV, and on this week's episode, I continue to celebrate Grenadian women. I did promise near and far, and this time, yes, this week, I definitely took it all the way to Germany. My guest for this week's episode is Roselle Grant. She's a mechanical engineer, and she's going to get to share her story with you on today's episode. Enjoy. Miss Roselle Grant, of course, is a past AHS student, and now she is deeply embedded in the engineering field. I just wanted to chat with Roselle today about her journey, being woman and also facing the challenges. And I know she's got a lot to share with us today. Roselle.
Hi, Lexan. Thank you so much for having me. I am doing good on this glorious Sunday morning.
Based in Germany?
Yeah.
From my old hotel industry days, I'll see how much I remember. Guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen, ja, das ist richtig.
Oh, don't get carried away now, Roselle. Don't get carried away now. But that's fantastic. Roselle, today we want to showcase you being woman and celebrating you as well. And I think the first thing I would love to find out from you as it relates to your career of choice. What does it mean to you being involved in the engineering field?
I think maybe even before I answer that, like I said, just so that individuals get a perspective as to who I am and why I would answer the way I answer, maybe I just spill a bit on who I am as a person and then jump into it professionally, yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I would describe Roselle as many things, and she's aiming to be a master of just a few. She is a Grenadian woman, of course, who spent 2/3 of her life, in the Isle of Spice, where she learned grit and gratitude, where she learned to be gracious and empathetic, yet grounded and not easily swayed. I would say she is kind. She is self-aware, adaptable, but imperfect and tends to be impatient. Nonetheless, she has a nice smile and I think she exudes a really good aura. So I like her, at least most times. She is quite adventurous with a special appreciation for the outdoors, but at the same time, she enjoys, that Netflix and chilling time.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
Professionally, I am an engineer. I studied mechanical engineering, and they call us the undecided of the engineering field. And that's just because I think a lot of the skills that we develop somewhat overlap all of the engineering disciplines, and I think that that's something to be proud of, right? And I started my career as a process control intern at a company called West Rock in Southeast Texas. And I cannot overstate that the value there was in having someone who would advocate for me in that. And she was another female. My manager at the time was a female. I did not have the experience. I did not take the controls class I needed to understand processing signals and all of that at the time. Right. But she saw something in me and she afforded me the opportunity. She said, you have the right attitude. I can teach you what it is that you need to know. Right. I mean, and I was afraid. I was scared. I was intimidated by the role. Nonetheless, I took about 8 months off of school and then I went into it.
Yeah.
And I stayed there for about 2 years. And I think that experience was a real accelerant to my career progression. And then after that, I moved to Reno, Nevada, where I started working for Tesla. And there I did work on implementing the manufacturing lines and ramping processes, new processes. And I stayed there for about 2 years again. And then I migrated to Germany and I've been here for about 2 years again, or rather still with Tesla, but now I'm in their research and development division. So here we actually build the tools that build the tools. Nice. So we make the machines that build the actual cars. So that's kind of how it went.
Fantastic. And I can tell, it's so important following your passion, because I can tell
Yes.
you speak about it and you are so filled with, contentment.
I am satisfied with the field that I've chosen. Um, I've been grounded in science, but I'm also able to explore my creative side or implement my creative side. I will, however, say that there are times where I felt like I had to be twice as good to be taken half as seriously. You know what I mean? And that doesn't apply to every moment of my career because there were times where I've been entrusted to make really big decisions, probably decisions I wouldn't undertake myself. And that was because I was deemed capable. I feel like sometimes there tends to be this categorization of women's skill sets. And maybe men feel this way as well. Maybe, yeah, but I'm not sure. So I'm speaking of it from a woman's perspective, or also my perspective, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes if a woman is seen as being a really good caretaker or the primary caretaker at home, it's probably equated to her not being able to be the best CEO of, a particular company. Or if she is good at data analysis, then she
Mhm.
probably cannot be good hands-on on the actual tools. And I don't think that it should be like that. I don't think that it is like that. I mean, I look at you and I don't think it's like that, right? She can be everything, but I don't think there needs to be a this or that.
Yeah.
And I think in my case, I've been able to experience the company from two different perspectives. In the USA, I was more or less within the same age group as my colleagues.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'll say that most of us are relatively inexperienced. I mean, yes, it wasn't our first rodeos, it probably wasn't our first jobs, but this was the first time that we were trying to attempt to do something like this, like Tesla's mission. It was uncharted waters, and just the culture was different. I feel like an individual's ability to effectively, fulfill their role superseded that of the degree they would have. And no, I'm in a culture. I mean, after moving here, it's different, right? And not necessarily bad. I'm in a culture where that educational degree is really held in high esteem, right?
Mm.
And that is not a bad thing. You do want people with the expertise to be able to perfect the science that you're trying to,
So,
get better at as a company. But at the same time, I believe that those individuals need to be willing to take input from quote unquote the less experienced people. I think in my case, I am the only female on my team. I am the youngest person on my team, which by default places me into the category of inexperience.
yep.
But that's only time wise, as I would say, right? Because, yeah, some people have been working there for longer than I've been alive, but I will not undervalue my input and my contributions to this company for things that would have taken other companies maybe 50 years to do. I played an integral role in it, and it's okay to own that, and it's okay to be proud of that. As a female, I've had to be hyper mindful
Mhm.
as to who my audience is and what will be my approach to persuade them to come over to my side on a particular decision or to pay a couple $1 million for something,
Right,
right?
right.
But at the same time, to me, it's as if I've been training my entire life for this, because aside from the all girls high school that I went to, shout out again to the AHS, most of my classes at TAMCC through university has had this imbalance between male female ratio.
Mhm.
And of course, those numbers tend to trickle up into the workplace, right? Um, this then kind of leads me to ask, why is that? Is it that women are just not interested in these fields? Is it that they are unaware that they can enter these fields and they can excel?
Yeah.
And I think that this will be an interesting survey question for maybe like the primary school, secondary school level,
Yeah.
at least in my island. I'd be curious to see what the results would show.
It's not that they don't want to, I think it's just that there's the traditional and common goals out there that's they're just bombarded with, one field of work, one line of work. And I'm not knocking anybody here, but maybe, like you say, maybe there needs to be some sort of revolution in terms of, letting them know, listen, hey, this can happen. Tell me about the importance, how important it is to you to really keep a strong grip on faith in yourself, Roselle.
That's a really, really good one. I think that it is super critical to be aware of this self-imprisoning imposter syndrome, they call it, right? And it's a
Mhm.
term I just like recently heard of,
Mhm.
where it's this sense of I don't belong. And quite honestly, this is one I'm still working through.
Yeah.
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 I've ended up in situations or in rooms where as soon as I enter, I would immediately question, do I belong here?
Yeah.
Am I good enough to be here? Can I be impactful? And when we step into situations with this sort of mindset, it's almost as if we're placing imaginary bounds. We're imprisoning ourselves and placing imaginary bounds as to what is it that we can accomplish, even before anyone else throws up those barriers. And what I've seen is that you can be the one out of the 100 people who believe in you and still be impactful. And at the same time, or conversely, you can be, there can be 99 other people out of 100 who believe that, you deserve a spot at the table, or you deserve a spot at this drinking well. But at the same time, they can't make you drink, right? So it is important to first identify it, um, and it's I'm not going to say it's a bad thing. I think it's a bad thing if you allow it to cripple you, but just be aware of it. Question yourself, why is it that I feel this way? um, I didn't just get up and jump into this boardroom, right? I didn't just get up and start to have my own production TV or my own production channel. um, there are steps, there are processes that I went through, and I need to be confident in those processes that I took whatever I would have learned, and that is what got me here today. So yeah, that's the
Good.
importance of identifying why it is we feel so intimidated and afraid to shine. um yeah.
You are hitting some nails on the head, Roselle. Let me tell you. Let me tell you. Let's talk about boundaries. Boundaries are
Mm,
crucial. We don't realize how important boundaries are. We can get carried away. We can, you know, be tested. But
mhm.
let's talk about the importance of boundaries to you, Roselle.
Yeah, I think that the first thing in setting boundaries requires one to be aware of his or her values and triggers. So, I mean, some people have a higher pain tolerance than others, right? And I think, at least for me, when I understand what matters to me, then I can set up key truths for the things that I can and cannot tolerate. And then with some like safety buffer, I'm able to gauge things then that I will and won't tolerate. So, like in terms of a scientific analogy, I would describe it as specification limits and control limits. So if these are my specification limits for my product, right, or for my process, right? This is my cannot and my can, my definite hard truths.
Yeah.
Give that some buffer space. And then these are my control limits where I want to be performing within,
Yeah.
right? And within this particular space, this is where I'm at my best. This is where I perform optimally. This is my green line or my green zone, let's call it. And I think when people understand or apply those things to them, whatever it may be. Maybe it might be like a time people are allowed to call you, or how much overtime you allow yourself to work. Anything. It can be, I think, can be applied to that, and you break it down in that space. You give yourself some buffer position, and you said, you know what? These are the lines. If I want to be my best or show up as my best for my team, then this is where I need to be. So these are the boundaries that I need to set. Um, yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably how I'd go about doing it.
Yeah. You sound like
But
you've strategized this very well, young lady. And that's
actually,
important.
yeah, definitely.
That's so important.
One other thing is probably more on a personal front is that I think we need to be uncompromising in the energies that we allow in our personal space. And of course, there are sacrifices you will make, right? And steps you'd have to take outside of your comfort zone, excuse me, and perhaps some hard conversations and some hard things you would have to hear, some hard critique in order for you to grow. But what I'm saying by being protective of your space is some people's energies can just be draining, and it doesn't mean that they're bad people, right? That's not what it's about. Sometimes that's just the way it is, and we need to understand that and accept that and not be afraid to set boundaries, and at the same time not be offended when people set boundaries, like those sorts of boundaries with us, right? And that could just be the introvert in me speaking out, but yeah, that's what I would say. We cannot afford to allow fear to debilitate progress.
This week's episode of Lexan TV is brought to you by GEM Consultancy. Welcome everyone, I'm Lexan Fletcher and this is Lexan TV. Now the Lexan TV platform is home to many great series. There's a Life Champion series and of course General Lifestyle.
You know, this is a career, this is not just about storytelling.
It is a true passion.
Keep doing what you love to do.
I have never chased after money.
You want to leave this world having made a contribution.
But don't forget, there's also food and cuisine. So there's the We Cooking series as well.
I like to cook the curry.
And coming soon, the Life Balance podcast. I'm really excited about that one. Thank you so much for stopping by. Remember to click like, share, and on our YouTube channel, subscribe today. Dealing with challenging moments. You mentioned earlier, there's just different levels to certain things that happen within your space, within your life. What happens and how do you deal with the moments that bear down a lot on you?
Being a woman, first of all, is incredible. And I'm talking outside of the versatility in the ways we get to dress and the way we get to express ourselves with makeup and all of that. But on the flip side, in particular settings, there are social expectations on us that are placed on us that our male counterparts do not have. They do not have those limitations in their behavior in a certain place or time, right? I would also say that women are generally gifted with intuition, which can lead to some gutsy choices. And at times, those can only be appreciated in retrospect. So then we need to learn to be patient, to wait for those, after moments to occur so that everyone sees that, now I see why, right? Yeah, and it's been an exercise in patience for me in that sense. For me, again, managing, challenging moments sometimes means not shying away from confrontation. Now, I'm speaking particularly at work here, and confrontation doesn't necessarily need to have like a negative connotation to it. Sometimes it can be healthy. Like I've had experiences where I held my tongue, I refrained from providing my input, and then I would go home and be annoyed all night long that I didn't say my part. And not just because I didn't say my part because I wanted the last word, but more so because my part was worth saying and I kept it to myself. And that drove me like crazy all night. That would drive me crazy all night. Then I wouldn't sleep. And then I'd be tired and grumpy the next day and then take that out on my teammates. I don't know if you can relate, like Sam, but I've done this. I'm guilty of this. But yeah, when all it took was me to say my part respectfully and have, the entire tone of the next 24 hours take like a different trajectory.
Yeah.
I think I've also had to learn to say no in certain times, just to take care of my mental state. Like it could be trying, to say the least. And at the same time, I've had to be able to say yes when I didn't feel confident in doing something. I'm like, you want me to do what? Yeah. And figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, just like on Grey's Anatomy, I just dance. Yeah.
Hey, well said.
I mean,
And
right, everyone has their approaches.
everybody it's so true, but like I say, and I'm sure a lot of what you're expressing is very relatable to our viewers, so that's fantastic. I am eager to hear who inspires you, Roselle.
Who inspires me? To be honest, like San, there are some times where I feel like I am captaining the ship called Roselle
Yes.
with zero training in navigation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like a lot that is sometimes where I'm at with a lot of my decisions and a lot of the things I would choose to do.
Yeah.
However, I will say that there have been people who believed in me and who encouraged my ideas and my thoughts. Maybe in terms of names that we all know of, like big leaders like the Richard Bransons or the R.J. Scaringers, the individuals who place the well-being of their employees at a higher level than the status quo, to be honest. I would also say people who inspire and influence me are minimalists, people who can just like make the most out of the least. The people who still manage to walk in and say good morning and actually mean it. Simple things like that just make my day, keep me hanging on for like the next hour, right? The people who pray for me, shout out to my mom. I'm so grateful for all the women who would have ventured into this field before me. Now, you may or may not know this about me, but at some point in my life, I wanted to become an astronaut, right? And so, like, like the Sally Rides and the Mae Jemisons and every woman who made it possible for me to see that, hey, women can do this. The strong voices, the Maya Angelos, who at some point, she went through her dark stages. She silenced herself because she was afraid to own the power of her own voice, right? When I listened to her story. And I will say my friends also influenced me, like the Carl, the Calvin, the Carlene, the Kay, the Tracy, the Connie. I think it's interesting that all of their names have this like
ring to it.
The same consonant, right?
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's good.
And they influence me because of the way they love themselves, first of all, the way that they treat their families, and like even in this time, they always keep in contact with me. That is something I've never really been good at. Like, son, when I leave a place or a spot, I've never been the best at keeping in communication, and especially during these times, like I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Let me tell you, this is so relatable. Your story, this is so relatable. I have to tell you this, and I'm going to say it over and over. And I guess after this broadcast, I'm going to tell you why. We see a little person in the background.
Hi, little person.
So that's what happens when your living room becomes your set. Bye.
That's the awesome part.
You call it the pop-up moment.
Exactly.
And how important do you think it is to empower our young women and our women as well?
Yeah, I cannot overestimate its importance. And I think in doing that, maybe I can like offer some advice, or maybe if somebody had told me this, I would have been further along, right? I would say number one is to be deliberate in whatever way that may apply to you, whether it's drinking a glass of warm water every morning because you know that it aids in digestion, or something a little more difficult as having that uncomfortable conversation with your manager because whatever it is that you did this year did not align with your personal goals and what you spoke about, achieving for yourself and for the company on that particular year. I mean, there are still times when I wonder how much more could I have accomplished had I been more deliberate with my efforts to learn German, to learn the guitars and not just have them hanging there like ornamental pieces. My efforts in the investments I would make in my relationships and friendships, and like maybe to a lesser extent, monetary. Um, so be deliberate in what you do. I would also say on the flip side of that, you also need to be adaptable. Things change. It is that only constant. And the goals of the business with which you're employed will change. Your personal passions will change. And sometimes rigidity just does not play well in like accommodating that. There are times you just need to go with the flow. I wouldn't tell someone to be fearless, but I will say that we cannot afford to allow fear to debilitate progress. And like I've conquered things, but truth be told, like I feel afraid a lot, like almost every day in some situation. I am afraid, or because I may not be the subject matter expert, etc. Right? But the saying is true. What is it where you regret the things that you don't do and the chances that you didn't take? As cliche as it sounds, that is so true. And that has held true to me because as open as I consider myself to be, and as far as I've gone, it's every time I shied away from speaking at an event. For instance, when you asked me to do this, I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't do well in public speaking. I know this. How do I back out? That was my like initial instinct, right? And I'm like, no, you know that this is one of your weaknesses and you want to get better at it. So you go ahead and you take the chances. You do the things that may, highlight your flaws or your inadequacies. But at the end of the day, you're going to get better at it. I mean, hopefully, right? So, yeah.
Wow.
I think the things that you don't do are what you will regret. And then
really
20s, you in your 20s is not you in your 30s or you when you were 25, right? If something no longer aligns with your purpose and happiness and mental health, then take the steps to change it. Some things are seasonal.
Better believe it. Yeah. And I have to say, just for the record, shy and public speaking. Girl, stop. I just felt like I went to a therapeutic session, because you have, like I said, you've enlightened me so much with much of what you just shared. And that is important. And there's nothing better than speaking from the heart. When you speak from the heart, hey, you forget everything about, oh my God, I get nervous when I speak. Oh, I this, oh, I that. It goes through the window because you're speaking from a place of experience and knowledge and emotion. So this was fantastic. And you call yourself a daredevil?
I take some chances. I mean, I take calculated risks, right?
Really?
So things like jumping out of airplanes. I plan to bungee jump at some point.
Really?
Hike in the woods. And almost being attacked by bears, but being prepared. So that's why I say we need to take like calculated risks.
Calculated risk. Spoken like a scientist there, girl. Let me tell you. Roselle, you sharing your story and your growth is so important. Your story is so important to share.
Thank you so much, Lexa. And
Welcome.
let me just publicly say this, that I appreciate that this platform you've placed out here to allow women to express their experiences and, their vulnerabilities and their strengths. So continue to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I will continue to support.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you. That was my conversation with Roselle Grant. Of course, Roselle is stationed in Germany and is with the company Tesla. We want to wish her all the best. And to you, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode right here on Lexan TV. Certainly hope the conversations that we've shared thus far for the month of March, particularly if you're a woman, that you were truly inspired. Until next time, don't forget, Lexan TV is where it's all about life. Take it, Jeff. Bye-bye.